Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Valtr. I'm the founder of Mews. And today I'd really like to talk to you about the impact of AI on hospitality, because it seems to be a topic that just won't go away, and I think for a good reason. And I'm hopefully going to shed some light on why we think it's good. So first of all, I just wanted to reintroduce Muse to some of you that might not know us. So we're here to develop transformational solutions for brands and remarkable experiences for guests, and that's really something that really guides us in our process. And I think that should be the way that most hotel technology is built. So on the one side, we are in the middle of a huge transformation, especially from kind of on-premise, slower, older systems, basically, to a much more hyper-connected world. And that's we're in the middle of that kind of transformation, but we also need to kind of make sure that we're not just recreating what was once basically in those systems, that we're not working towards some kind of RFP box basically with a number of drop down options, but we're really thinking about how does this actually make our industry better, how does this make our guest experience better. And this is really, I think, something that touches to the heart of the AI revolution. So again, news, just to kind of give you an overview. So we're close to around 1,000 employees. Now we, unlike most of our competitors, we tend to spend the most amount of money on R&D rather than sales and other functions like that. So from that perspective, we really do see ourselves as a tech company first and foremost. We're in more than 85 different countries, have lots of very interesting brands and hotels under our wing. And I think for us, it's really about the fact that we like to work with the innovators of this industry. So I think that's really where we think that we can do the most amount of work to show basically what we think the future of hospitality actually looks like. And I think that we really love to partner very directly and concretely with some of our partners, and I think with that as well, we like to bring other tech companies and other partners with us. So we have by far the largest API library of any other system. We have been doing the Open API for the longest time, so it is by far the most mature of any other PMS on the market. And it's great to see that this entire industry has kind of followed our lead into the Open API revolution, and we really love actually seeing that kind of competition heat up in terms of the fact that they're trying to catch us with the I guess couple of years head start that we had in that area. So when we talk about AI, I think the most important thing to kind of level set is really where we are in the whole process of why, for example, the current, let's say, the current hype cycle seems to be kind of so focused on AI. And I think that's really because what you're seeing is a convergence in many different technologies that have really kind of come of age, and they're able to kind of combine together to actually create results that we now see in real time. So when you think about, you don't need to kind of understand what NLP is, NLG, you really don't need to kind of go into what transformer models and, various different ways of reinforcement learning that you see in machine learning. I think what is really important, really interesting to kind of understand is that we're getting to being able to use AI or artificial intelligence at the speed of thought, at the speed of the input that's coming into it. And I think that's very exciting. And it's the reason why we think that this is very different to other, let's say, technological processes or hype cycles that have been before, because this is now going to be very applicable to hospitality. So if you think about it, and the way that we think about it as a PMS, for example, is that we think, okay, well, how can we use AI in a process where, for example, you have a customer who's coming up to you at the front office. They're, you know, asking you a bunch of questions. They're telling you something about themselves. Basically, they're telling you something about what they like doing, what they've really enjoyed doing, and based on that, you're not only kind of using your own intuition, your own big data processing power, but you're also kind of then looking to the system to be able to in real time assist you with, well, we think that this recommendation would be great, or you should be thinking about prompting the customer with this set of instructions. And I think that this is something that is very complementary to humans, and this is why we think that especially generative AI will have this very large impact on hospitality, because what you're going to see is this kind of support in real time. It won't be a chatbot that you're waiting for to kind of think through all of its answers. This will be actually something as a tool that your existing staff will be able to kind of to maximize their impact and maximize the feeling of hospitality that you're able to actually confer to your guests. So one of the reasons why we think that this hype cycle is different to others that have occurred in technology is that other, let's say, kind of newer technologies and newer things that were kind of on the horizon, whether it's advances in various kind of cryptography that were supposed to kind of create an entire new wave of currencies and all of the other types of technologies that were supposed to change the world but didn't really change it by much. This seems to be very different because of the usage factor and the way that it's actually kind of seeped into human essentially the way that humans are interacting with the world. I think when you look at companies like OpenAI and ChatGPT, basically, the amount of people that are now actively using that service on a day-to-day basis is really kind of exploding in that way. And I think that that's really kind of the way that you should be thinking about it, that this is really a kind of internet moment for our industry. It's going to be an explosive rate of growth, and you're going to actually see AI embedded in every single tool that you're using from a consumer perspective. And then because of that, consumers are going to actually kind of think about that when they're actually kind of interacting with you, and they're going to expect you to also have access to solutions that will incorporate these tools. So when you think about that, on the one side, you don't want to cede too much control and too much, to the OTAs. I think what you see is, both with Booking.com trying to kind of resuscitate its connected trip program, or with, for example, what Expedia or Kayak is trying to do. They're essentially trying to, as ever, disintermediate the connection that you have to your guests. They're trying to basically kind of say, look, we will actually do everything for the guest, and you just need to kind of provide the space. And I think that that's, on the one side, that would be a huge shame, because they're using the same technology as what you'd be using in terms of ChatGPT and any of these things. So there isn't anything special. They're not using some kind of, amended version of that AI. This is something that's really kind of general and is able to actually kind of be used in lots of different ways. And it just means basically like you can really kind of, that technology is going to be democratized. So you not using it from that perspective will just put you at a kind of almost unnatural disadvantage. The same thing with direct bookings. Now, the promise of AI and the way that it gets around some of these kind of intermediaries is that you're able to actually kind of, join up two primary parties. So if you think about what a primary party basically in this sense is, it's going to be somebody who's going to be interacting with a very smart kind of assistant on their side, a ChatGPT or whatever Perplexity AI when it's to do with search or anything like a Bing search engine, and they're going to be trying to actually kind of interact with a service on the other end that's giving them primary information. Now, if you think about what OTAs are basically kind of doing from that perspective, they're just the middleman in all of this. But when you have these two kind of primary parties that have, APIs that can actually kind of talk to one another, there is no need for that intermediary. The one thing that is important and that we see actually kind of playing a huge role in the same way that it has basically in our industry is the likes of a lot of these review sites basically. So whether it's TripAdvisor or Trustpilot more generally, we're now seeing that the lead sources that you actually see. So for example, also for ourselves, we see that ChatGPT is actually becoming the second most relevant site or relevant source basically for a lot of people coming to Mews.com and actually kind of learning about us. And that's because of the fact that we won PMS of the Year and Hotel Tech Report and all of these other things. But essentially the fact that those kind of smart large language models are now learning about the tools that you're actually kind of using directly, rather than kind of having to go through third parties. That's a really, really interesting new thing that's really kind of happening, a new phenomenon that you're probably actually already seeing on your website. So from that perspective, think about what unique factors are there. Where uniquely can your brand and your hotel, for example, play a role? And you'll see that will become more and more pronounced, basically, as this decade wears on. So now, to the practical, how can you actually apply AI to your property without changing PMS or doing any of these types of things? I always like to actually kind of position it from the types of things that we've seen. So this is from an IDC report, and this is something that I was very interested in, which was the effect of people actually kind of going from on-premise systems to cloud-based PMSs, and this was a report that they commissioned while they were comparing all the different PMS players. And it's the dark blue line basically in this is tracking the top priorities that somebody actually kind of had and why they wanted to actually kind of change, and the turquoise one is really the result and what they really saw as a result of that change. Now, I think one of the sad things about the reason why people actually kind of do technological changes in hospitality is, I'd probably say, because of kind of softer reasons. So when you look at those on the left there, where it's innovation, business agility, for example, business resilience and things like that, those are quite kind of quite famously difficult to quantify, difficult to actually kind of point out exactly how well you're kind of doing. But the one result that this move from on-premise to these cloud systems or cloud PMSs, basically in this case, what it really had as an impact was revenue. And I think sometimes, a lot of CIOs in the hotel industry tend to make the mistake that the reason why you kind of update is because you want to actually, you don't want to kind of lose a lot of the stuff that you had before that all the different departments are actually kind of telling you are important, but you don't want to embrace new technology because you're afraid of the impact that it has on operations. But what we see and what is quite clearly the case is that most new technologies and most new let's say integrations that you can actually kind of bring into your to your brand actually have a massive revenue impact, and that's something that we always kind of like to talk about and like to track. So how can we actually kind of do this with AI? So I think that sometimes people make the mistake of wanting to kind of go too far. They say, we need more data, more surveys, more ways to actually kind of look at data, connecting and collecting guest data. I don't think you need more. You just need to access it more intelligently. You need to be thinking about how can we actually build out a recommendation profile based on who the guest is, and how can we prioritize? How can we actually kind of make sure that we're using all of these things to prioritize and reward the most loyal customers? You know, empowering your front desk to actually kind of see it as a kind of sales center and as a kind of profit center rather than a cost center. So thinking about basically how you can actually kind of take all of the things that are being delivered in guest notes basically, or from all of the different tools that you have, and think about who is checking in today, where can we actually kind of focus in the most, utilizing even things like ChatGPT to actually organize that data. You can also think about how can I connect more different types of sources basically. So organizing your guests by flight arrival time, for example, or by any of these other things. Thinking about how can I actually take this large data set, put it into a large language model to actually kind of start sorting and prioritizing a lot of these things for you. Thinking about, for example, also different results based on every single stage. So not just thinking about the check-in process basically, but thinking about well, what should we do on the first day, what should we do on the second day, and actually kind of looking at the data that you have collected, and then basically kind of utilizing some of these large language models to actually make sense. And by even asking them, for example, what is normal for these types of guests to actually consume on the first day? What types of activities are we actually kind of seeing? The next thing that I think that is really, really important to do is to try and basically kind of think about, how you can start to offer dynamic pricing beyond just bedrooms. So right now, I think airlines and hotels do dynamic pricing very, very well. But what you can see is that most customers actually kind of don't mind dynamic pricing. So from that perspective, basically try and think about, how you can apply that type of thinking to your entire operation. So think about recommending times that somebody should actually be arriving for breakfast. Think about how could you actually introduce charging for peak times basically, and trying to think about behavioral based pricing. So for example, if somebody wants to check in early or use a specific service basically kind of earlier, for example, like, are you doing late night parking that's a differentiated product from your normal parking product? And you can think about all of these things basically based and thinking about how to develop that guest profile so that you understand the impact that it might actually have on that customer. Think about what mode are they in basically. Think about are they coming to you while they're traveling with family, or are they actually coming to you when they're traveling for work? So how can you start today? I think the main thing that we recommend is really kind of looking at all of the different integrations that you have with, for example, your PMS, or possibly with your CRS or channel manager or something like that. We see, for example, these are just some of the systems and some of the companies that we have connected that offer some form of revenue management. And for me, when anyone ever kind of asks, I say revenue management, and some of those abilities that revenue management systems have should be a no-brainer, and they should be used basically for different parts of the entire journey. So for example, something like a runner AI is a very, very easy solution that you can actually kind of use for messaging and things like that. Whereas, for example, other solutions like Opti will actually kind of optimize the way that you then work with your housekeeping. And thinking about how you can utilize differentiated forms of housekeeping to actually kind of think about the different services that you can have. So with that, we always kind of think about it like this, that the AI will not change the way that hoteliers actually kind of do their jobs, but it will have a substantial influence on the way that business within hospitality is actually done. So when you think about it, we don't think that it will take your job. We don't think that the main effect will be that hotels will have less staff, but we do think that the ability to monetize all of the different interaction points will be different. So for that, AI will not take your job, but the people who are using AI definitely will. So with that, thank you so much for listening. I hope it was enjoyable for you all, and I look forward to seeing you all somewhere soon, hopefully discussing the impact of AI on our industry. Thank you so much.